This is the cold open, Dan.
This is the cold open.
Adam's already mad that last part lasted longer than a minute, I'm sure.
100%. He's sitting there steaming. He knows somewhere that we are going beyond our time.
He just texted me.
Well, that's the warm-up. Warm-ups are allowed to go beyond time. Cold open is...
It just means Dan has to
cut stuff out. All right, how long... Speaking of, how long should an average NPC monologue for?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many variables. I
kind of want to roll for this one because we're going to have some strong fucking opinions.
Oh, God.
Wow, I could tell by your strong language. That was a natural 20 I rolled there.
I knocked it into a 16, though.
And then I rolled a 16 to max, so we got to re-roll here, Terry.
I hate it when this happens. This is what Dan does.
You
Dan
and I do it all the time.
Change both of our numbers.
So aggressive.
1, 2, 3, go.
You're a dingus. Go ahead, re-roll it. Yeah, of course. You hit my dice into a natural one, popped it out, and then crit. So, Terry.
Like 4 natural 20s.
Go ahead.
I don't think an NPC should monologue for any longer than about a minute.
Okay. I thought you were pausing there for a minute. I was about to get mad.
Because it's almost, it strikes me as a little bit arrogant. Okay? It's like, get on with it. All right? We got stuff to do. I think you can set a scene for longer. But for a monologue, just to go off, it's like, look, man, get on with it. But you also, I know it's a fantasy game, but also be realistic. You can't just stand there talking at me for a minute. Have you ever seen a James Bond movie?
See, I would disagree.
Okay.
Only because it depends on the level of, I don't know, ire you have towards it. Like, the level of hatred the party has toward whatever this big bad evil guy or NPC that is monologuing is, that gives the time frame. If it is somebody you just met, that guy's talking for no longer than 30 seconds, if that, maybe 5 seconds,
right, before
someone's shooting an arrow into him. If it is the big bad evil guy that you've been fighting from level 1 to level 20, you're going to let that guy speak for 5 minutes.
I would say, like, I would agree with that. It depends on the degree and verity of your interaction with this character. If it's somebody you don't know who's monologuing for 5 minutes, you're going to want to stab them in the face. But to your point, if you're at the end game and you've come into, like, your big bad boss person, you're going to let them monologue because you're interested in finishing the story.
But you're also interested
if it's like monologues. I feel like it's taking away my agency. I'm like, yeah, shut up. I've already decided I would like to now shoot this person. I don't want to hear another 4 minutes.
But as a player, I sit there and I'm like, no, keep talking because I'm going to make notes about the little things you're not saying and the little things you're saying. And I'm going to come up to a theory to what your massive end game is because of that. Right? Like if you're level 18 and the evil lich is sitting there, you know, not telling you what his plan is ultimately going to involve, but is telling you just how he succeeded and what him succeeding means for this moment. You can kind of extrapolate what his end goal is going to be if you just let him talk long enough. And it stops being so much about him lording over you and being imposing over you and more about him being arrogant to the point of letting too much information slip.
How much did you want to arrow him in the face for this monologue that he just went off
on? You were close to the end of your minute there, Dan. But to your point, I understand. And I'll do it in 5 seconds. The loudest person in the room is often the weakest person in the room. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes. Yeah.
There we go.
All right.
Which is why often I'm not talking in the podcast. That's why Adam talks the most.
He's a monologuer, though, so...
Welcome to the It's a Mimic podcast with your DMs, Megan, Dan, and Terry.
And welcome to another episode of...
Wrong.
Why?
Wow.
Started with an and?
Why not?
Because you gotta follow the script. We gave David shit for this. And now that Adam's not here, we have to be perfect.
I am on
he will know.
Tight schedule. Please get it right.
Maybe I'll monologue for another 10 minutes. How about that?
That wasn't.
Do you want me to monologue how stupid that was? Because I will.
Wow. I didn't think that was wrong. I just wanted to hurt you.
You just want to hurt? Yeah, I could accept that.
I like how.
But Dan, I'm surprised.
I like how I asked Megan earlier this week to be like, "Hey, can you DM this?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be great." And we're not even like fun. A good 10 minutes in, and fun. We've already shit on you like twice. So
fuck you guys. Welcome to an episode. Now I can't even do it. Fuck you guys. Welcome to another episode of the... Oh, you son of a fucking bitch.
Okay, last one.
That's it. I'm going home. You can do this yourselves. Are you done?
I'm done.
Are you sure?
Yes.
All right. Sitting still?
Yes.
Okay.
She just got like mom energy on us, and I'm kind of scared.
Oh, Lord. Welcome to another episode of the It's a Mimic podcast, the roundtable Dungeons & Dragons discussion where you never know what you're going to get. I'm DM Megan. Again, I have definitely earned that honorary title. And with me are DM Terry and DM Dan. And today we are talking about the Brass Dragons.
Brass dragons, not bronze dragons or copper dragons or any of the others that get mixed up. I forget copper dragons exist, to be honest.
Honestly, I always get brass and bronze confused.
Well, they're basically the same, aren't they?
Yeah.
Kind of. No?
No, there's someone out there screaming at us already.
It's true. So what I'll do is I'll take us through a little bit about the brass dragon itself, kind of what it's about, get into a couple of the details going from Wormling all the way up to our ancient brass dragon. And then, of course, we'll get into a couple of nice, awesome disputes between the three of us to kind of figure out where we sit with brass dragons.
Yeah, so this will be a pretty generic dragon episode then, but it's our first metallic dragon.
It is our first
Is it the first one?
Yeah.
I get to do the first one.
You get to do the
DM the first.
Well, shit.
That's why...
Despite me taking a hiatus, despite how many times I requested to DM the Brass Dragon episode, Megan, here you are, in my seat.
You requested to DM the Brass Dragon episode?
Alright, confession, I never actually requested
He's
that.
just trying to be a dick.
I thought you said bronze.
I don't think I requested
Don't
any
you want
of
to do
them.
copper?
I forget about copper.
I'm jazzed for copper. Copper's one of my favorite metallic dragons.
I don't mind bronze, actually. I don't think I like any of them.
I'm just waiting for you to do the silver dragons.
I hate silver dragons.
That's why
I
I'm
think they're
looking
boring
forward to you
and
doing them.
I'm not doing it.
But they're so noble and so...
Yeah, well, you would like them, Paladin.
That's true. I'm very paladin-esque in life and in personality. Anyways, hush. All right, guys. So brass dragons, they're technically the weakest of the metallic dragons. And also one of the most benign of the species of the dragon. They kind of love to talk. That's their main aspect, to the exclusion of pretty much anything else. Talking is their jam. They like to speak to anyone and anything that will give it the time of day.
And even if they don't give it the time of the day, they'll talk to
They'll
it.
force it. That's the best part.
So what we're saying is that bronze dragons are the podcasters of dragons.
Brass dragons, yes.
Yes, if
Brass,
they could have
fuck, God damn it. This is going to be all episode I'm going to do that.
They're called brass dragons. Did you know?
Brass dragons.
Brass.
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 Very different. Could not be further from bronze.
Their breath attacks are different and everything.
Yeah. Completely different metal.
They both put people to... No, wait, they don't put both people to sleep.
Lord.
Megan?
All right. So, of course, this just means that it's not uncommon for brass dragons to be fluent in several hundred different languages. Although they obviously speak and prefer Draconic. They can basically learn languages. I think it's within an hour of hearing a language, they can learn it.
They're polyglots.
Yeah. So they're very, very smart. And they just know stuff, which is really cool. If we're looking at the dragons physically, the brass dragon has it's very kind of not very distinctive, I find, except for the fact that its wings do that tapered thing where they're like really long shoulders and they kind of taper in all the way down to the tail. So
Like
they're
a Victoria's Secret model?
like a very full set of wings, shall we say.
I freaking love it.
Yeah?
I love the look. Yeah.
I do like the look as well, actually, yeah.
They're like very large gliders.
I think they're my favorite looking metallic dragon.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I like copper better.
Allow me to flip the page and check. Oh, no, actually, bronze. I like the green in the bronze.
Yeah, we're doing brass dragons though, Terry.
Yeah, I know, but I flipped the page. I understood what I was talking about, whereas you did not. So. Copper looks good as well. Back to brass.
Absolutely. So one of the main things about meeting a brass dragon is if you meet it when it's young, it will be more brownish in color. And they do tend to, as they age, get shinier and shinier. The shape of the head was actually quite unusual, as it's got like a curved plate to it that kind of extends the dragon's eyes and its cheeks on either side, and is curved upward into 2 points. So it's got like a very distinctive face shape. And they've got 2 sharp horns on the chin. So instead of being like on the tops or on the sides like other dragons, they're actually on the chin itself. And they actually get pointier and pointier as they age. Kind of like a nice little beard.
Did anybody notice that I shaved?
I did notice that you shaved.
I like how you like shoved your chin out as I was talking.
I'll never shave again. I'll never shave again. Because as soon as I shaved it, I was like, wow, my face is fatter than I thought it was for sure.
That's why I have a beard.
So, yeah.
Are you being self-conscious about it now? Is
I
that
am
why?
now, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you did that to yourself. I'm sorry. Brass dragons were very rarely engaged in combat. They are definitely more of the talker rather than the fighter. If they're considered a creature that's threatening, They would actually subdue it with sleeping gas. So that's one of their breath kind of attacks that they have, to make them fall asleep and then trap them so that when they wake up, they have to listen to them talk for hours.
They're the gnome bard of dragons.
That's awful.
Right?
I freaking love it. They're the gnome. They're
They
the
would
gnome
put, they
of
would
dragons.
put me into a rage.
Yeah? Well, you just talked about how you don't like monologues and things.
Yeah.
This would be monologue 101.
I couldn't handle it. No.
Would you be able to DM a game where you actually had to NPC and DM a brass dragon?
Oh, I like listening to myself talk.
Oh, okay.
I'd be okay with that. Everybody had to listen to me. That would be all right. But as soon as someone starts talking about something that I'm not interested in, ugh.
Oh, Lord. As for their layers, brass dragons tend to habitat like deserts, sandy areas, and sometimes actually have similar habitats to blue dragons, which we did an episode before, I believe, on blue dragons.
Yep, it's been done.
In fact, blue dragons tend to be their largest nemesis as a result of that.
Well, they're both talkative dragons. Like a blue dragon will sit there and talk your ear off as well, but they'll be menacing and manipulative with it, whereas the brass dragon...
What do
just
they
wants
talk
to be
about? Are
chummy.
they curious? Is it knowledge they're trying to get? Or are they just trying to be your friend? Or are they...
Honestly, I think the brass dragon just wants to talk. They are the...
curious?
I think
they're
they like
the
sharing knowledge.
They're the 65-year-old church gran who sits on the porch with her cup of tea and her wide-brimmed hat with like 4 other church grans, and they just talk about everything for hours on end. Like, that is who they... Like, they're gossips. The way I see brass dragons is they sit there and they're like
this.
Did you hear about that one bard from the other country over?
Yeah,
Did you hear who he was caught with?
Let me talk to you about
my
it.
goodness.
And you're going to love it.
Right? You didn't hear it from me. You did not hear it from me. Everybody knows everything comes from you.
There's going to be
Didn't hear
that
from me.
one, and this is actually something I'm going to bring up later. There's going to be that one NPC in town that everyone knows is a brass dragon, but he thinks he's just being so sly by walking around town in his little humanoid form. Because, I mean, metallic dragons get the ability to change shape.
It's true.
He's going to be that one guy walking around town just like stopping everyone who will look him in the eyes for too long.
Every shop is in for like an hour before moving to the next one.
Right? Like that. And everyone's like, oh, shit, here he comes. Here he comes again. Sorry, go ahead.
Megan.
I love your story. It's great. So kind of back to their layers, they do tend to dig them into like the desert peak or a spire. And they actually prefer it to be facing the sunrise so that it warms their cave when the sun comes up.
Oh.
Isn't that nice?
It's nice. Don't they also breathe fire though?
Yes, absolutely.
So.
I mean, it's not that hard to get a warm...
redundant, but sure.
Fire melts the goods. And like... So I'm just going to keep building off things. Metallic dragons have a... the way they build their hordes is different to a chromatic dragon.
Megan might be about to tell us this.
Are you about to tell us this?
It's in there.
Okay.
It's in my speech. It's in my monologue, shall I say.
Okay. Continue. Like a player, I'm interrupting the DM. Go ahead.
So, basically, they actually have like very large layers, and the centerpiece of their layer tends to be the grand hall of conversation. So they like having a room dedicated to communication and conversation, which I absolutely love.
This is awful for me. I hate small talk and mingling. Like, I hate it. I hate networking, air quotes. I hate all that stuff. Going to a game and talking to the person next to you, like disposable friends, on airplanes and stuff. Hate all that.
I feel like the part that I like about that, though, is if you were as a PC to walk into a lair and start talking to one of these dragons, they would probably know who you are.
Yeah.
Just if you've done something.
They want your autograph. A brass dragon.
Like, oh my god, I can't believe it's you. Holy shit.
Are you Titus?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. I bet it is. So.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
I also love the idea that your party is, getting all equipped to, go raid the dragon lair. They walk in and it's a large mahogany table with nice, comfortable chairs. And you just see this one dude, his feet up on the table going, oh, you're finally here. Come, sit. I have hors d'oeuvres coming. We could have a good time. It'll be good.
Come on in. It's going to be great.
Good. Hey, you look a little weary. Sit. We'll get some coffee brewing. It'll be good. How's your mother? I did some research lately, and it was really, really good to see how a human's mother really influences her life.
I already hate brass dragons.
Right?
I can feel it. I can feel the energy from you that you just hate it.
I would make that sound.
Mostly because Dan's able to monologue about this a lot more.
You'd be such a good brass dragon, Dan.
Oh, I feel like this is your spirit animal.
My next campaign is going to have like at least an ancient that is just involved with everything.
I love it.
I love it too, but I hate it.
Other than that, get into like its hoard and its collectibles. So they do, as to your point, Dan, collect things a little bit differently. For two reasons. One, they like collecting things that are sentient so that they can talk to them.
Brass dragons specifically like that?
Yes. So they will collect like sentient
God.
weapons, sentient objects. They'll keep things like genies and things that like are sentient and able to talk to, so they can constantly have people to communicate with.
This is like misery.
Yeah.
Is what
for
I feel
you,
it's
this
like.
is misery.
Yeah.
But it would be misery for those items.
Yeah.
I would imagine being like a sentient sword being like, I fucking hate my life.
Yeah.
Somebody come get me out of this fucking horde. I hate it here.
I'm your biggest fan.
Yeah.
I'm your biggest fan. Yeah.
Oh my god.
The only problem is a lot of sentient items are straight up evil.
It's true.
Yeah, I don't think they need to be, though.
Like, if you got your hands on, like, a Black Razor or...
Keith was not.
Oh, Keith. He's a good guy.
Yeah,
How is he?
He's doing well.
Is he okay?
Chris Lice.
He's slicing his way through.
I get the updates every now and again from Adam.
Yeah.
Last night he was like, by the way, your wife is alive. And I was like, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the update.
Technically, so's Titus. Technically.
Yeah, he said that too.
Yeah.
Very exciting stuff. The other pieces that they don't tend to actually hold on to shiny objects. They don't like their gold, they don't like their crowns, they don't like anything.
Really?
They'll actually donate those objects to other people in other places. The items they actually keep in their hoard are mundane stuff, like wooden objects. So like nice ornate chairs, nice tables. They like, basically they like carpentry, is how I imagine it.
Yeah.
So like they like collect nice archways and just
Oh my
things that
God,
look
it is
really
Dan.
nice.
Yeah. I love these guys. I love
Dan
these
is
guys
such
so
a brass
much.
The
dragon.
more that I read this and the more I think about my notes, I'm like, this is Dan.
Yeah.
This is Dan as a dragon.
Yeah.
I would suspect that he's just got bookshelves everywhere. And
yes.
they're not like ancient tomes of, long forgotten wisdom. They're like
The Wind in the Willows.
they're fitness magazines
Fitness magazine
They're-
from 1992.
from like 1992.
Jazzercise. Yeah.
Right? They're just this eclectic mix of just random stuff that he's picked up.
like a doctor's waiting room.
Yeah, right? Like there's Reader's Digest from, a century ago that no one really can read it or gets the jokes and,
Like George
laughter's the best
Clooney
medicine.
from ER is like on the front like, for the
Right.
upcoming episode.
This article about this new up and coming actor Cary Grant. Like it just
Oh Lord.
just they're collectors as well. I love that. Like they've got miniatures.
And they would have the collector's item of everything.
Oh, 100%.
And like in multiples if they can find it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That brass dragons are comic book collectors.
Oh yes. But
Right.
in like history notebook. Like
No, I think like legitimate, like they'll collect religious pamphlets
ooh.
and, or stuff like that, and just be like, oh, there was this one really interesting cult that sprung up about 400 years ago. Here's a pamphlet for it. It's dead now, so it's not really that important. They found out it was a whole hoax, and they just end up drinking a bunch of Kool-Aid and dying. It was an awesome little thing. But
Yeah.
you should really flip through it because it's kind of aligned with what you guys are doing in your mission right now, and it might help you out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're also like very overly protective of those items and artifacts. So like they do keep things separate too. So if they collect paintings, they have a gallery.
Yeah.
If they have they would separate the things. They would have like a gallery of all their art. Then
Yeah.
they would have a room
Just
that's
those
all of their
sentient
tables and
swords
chairs.
inside a glass
Yeah,
box.
and they would just keep everything
That's
nice and
crazy.
organized.
You walk into the conversation hall, and it's just a little box full of white linen gloves.
Yes.
It's just like, put the gloves on before you
Shoes
sit down.
off, gloves on. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's booties. If your shoes are too hard to come off, you could just slip those little
Yeah,
cloth booties
and
over. Please don't mess
only
up
the
hard
dragon
work.
turns the pages
Yeah.
on the book.
Or just a light breeze. Just don't even touch the books.
I love
Just-
it.
I love it. It's great.
What's that? What happens on? Is it you that show you where they're in like a chilled room? The books because it stops them from
Yeah.
aging or something. Yeah.
Keeps the proper temperature and humidity so
Yes.
that the books maintain their composure.
Doesn't sound like a serial killer at all.
So a brass dragon is also an expert in HVAC.
Absolutely.
Okay.
In this day and age, that's the version of.
Yeah. So
I
this
never-
guy really
Well,
is
think
me.
about it. They
This
live-
guy really is me.
Underground in a desert. So I'm sure the humidity is accurate and it's dry. So, right? Like, does that not make sense?
The only ways that I'm hearing that I diverge from a brass dragon right now is they enjoy the sun. I hate that thing. It's out to kill me. And they are fastidiously clean. I'm not that.
Good to know, Dan. But in other ways that they relate to you, it's in their parenting style as well.
Yes.
They tend to find a mate for life and make babies. That's basically, and they chill out together, chat all the time, because the thing about their eggs, because I know Adam would appreciate that we talk about their dragon eggs.
Yeah,
Yep.
I start to appreciate the eggs as well, though.
Yeah, so the way they work is that they'll find their mate for life, they have their eggs, and the eggs are not allowed to be left alone. So even if one of them leaves, they always have to have one parent there. Like, the eggs are never left to their own devices.
They're helicopter parents.
Yes, they're helicopter parents.
Is that what that is?
That's what that's called, yeah.
Yeah, and then...
I am one of those,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
This is why I said this is exactly like Dan right now still. And then what they do is they basically just sit on top of the eggs together and chat to each other while they're incubating their eggs.
This sounds weirdly perverted. I don't think I like this.
It's wholesome. It's not perverted. It's wholesome.
Not about this life.
Oh, I love it.
I'm the dad that's getting kicked out of Applebee's.
You're the green dragon of dads.
Yeah, they gotta take me anywhere.
Oh my god. I love it. But if we want to talk a little bit about their layers, to dig into that a little bit more,
Because they're like onions, right?
yes, of course. No, they aren't. These guys have one layer.
More ways they're like Dan. Oh.
But just to like flesh out their lair and their regional effects, of course, with their layers, they have strong winds that blows around the dragon, so that each creature within 60 feet of the dragon must succeed on a DC 15 strength saving throw or be pushed 15 feet. So that also helps with the movement of gases and vapors and things like that within their area.
Is this a layer action or is that just standard?
This is an actual layer action.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. And then the other layer action they have is a cloud of sand swirls about in a 20-foot radius sphere centered on a point the dragon can see within 120 feet. The cloud spreads around corners, and each creature must succeed on a DC 15 Constitution saving throw or be blinded for 1 minute. So that's kind of like the actions they have in, contingency with being in a desert, right?
Yeah.
They can kick up their sand, they can move things around with wind, so on and so forth.
Right.
So that's kind of what they utilize their lair for. Regional effects for them, for people coming up to a dragon's lair for these types, is that, you'll find the tracks appearing in sand within 6 miles. And then the tracks lead to safe shelters and hidden water sources that they would know about, while also leading to areas that the dragon prefers to remain undisturbed. So you would probably follow their tracks in a couple of different areas. If you were to be tracking them, you'd probably end up in a couple of different places before you end up in their lair, is kind of how I imagine it.
I would almost see these tracks as being like humanoid or something. They're just like, the party is, they're dry, they're really starting to get dehydrated, they need that source of water, and then suddenly someone sees tracks of like a camel.
Yeah.
Or something. Oh, let's follow those. Oh, a watering hole. Fantastic. What they don't know is that if they took a right instead of a left, they'd hit the ancient tomb that has all of these old carvings and hieroglyphs that the brass dragon has been preserving for the ages.
Yeah. Absolutely. As you kind of like approach and get closer to a layer, you'll start to see large or smaller monsters, like images though, not necessarily the real thing. These illusions move and appear real, although they can do basically no harm. Basically. A creature that examines an image from a distance can tell it's an illusion from a successful DC Intelligence 20. So it's a very high intelligence check if you're not running with a smart party.
They're just there to be deterrents, to stop people from going in.
Yeah. So, like, in my I imagine, because brass dragons tend to make friends with, again, like, genies or sphinxes or other giants of the desert, right? Mm-hmm. They would probably have that up as a deterrent. So if you see a swarm of a random sphinxes, you might be on your way to a dragon's lair.
No one's ever seen one ever, and now there's 6.
It's like, what is happening? Also, whenever a creature within an intelligence of 3 or higher comes within 30 feet of a water source within 1 mile of the dragon's lair, the dragon becomes aware of the creature's presence and location. So that kind of bleeds into the brass dragon's like intelligence and detection capabilities. It's almost like, oh, somebody I can talk to.
Yeah.
I can feel their intelligent energy.
I love the fact that it's a creature with an intelligence of more than 3.
Yeah.
Just so they're just like, conversation.
Yeah.
People. Like, they're extroverts.
Yeah. Exactly, right? Mm-hmm. And then the thing that I kind of, I think this happens with most metallic dragons, but if they die, they don't really have an area effect like the other.
I like the area effect.
They don't really have anything. Theirs is their tracks fade, and that's it. Like, there is no real effect to them dying in their area. It's just, they're gone.
I might homebrew on like their tomb collapses underground or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just preserved there.
For sure. No, I do the same.
Hidden libraries all over
Yeah.
the landscape because they collapse in themselves, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. I'd put something a little bit more than, the tracks in the sands, which are already hard to maintain, disappear.
Yeah.
Right? Like tracks in
Oh,
sand.
maybe the tomb is
disappear.
actually revealed. Maybe the hidden libraries and things are revealed when the
Oh,
when the
yeah.
dragon dies.
Yeah.
I also just watched Aladdin yesterday, so I'm also thinking
The live action one.
the live action one. Yeah.
Man, Jasmine got me again with that. In 1992 she got me, in 2019 she got me as well.
There you go.
Jafar in the live action was not good.
No. In fact, the live action ones, including the Lion King in this, they're not killing it with the bad guys. To be honest,
Not villainous enough.
they're not
No.
villainous enough.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of the basics of a brass dragon, kind of talking about its environment, its personality, and kind of its quirks. What we can do is take a minute to go through its wormling phases and kind of talk about its stats, and then go all the way up to ancient, and then we'll start rolling on some good conversation.
Cool,
Sure.
cool.
So brass dragon wormlings, so these are going to be your little guys, your little hatchlings. They have smaller hit points and they have an armor class of only 16. I think that's one of the lowest armor classes for a
It
wormling.
really is.
They're
yeah.
generally much weaker in
Yeah.
all around, but I like it though, and I'll get to that later.
Absolutely. So their highest stat is still strength at a 15 with +2, and then next is their constitution, obviously, and charisma. They are dragons. They're talkative.
Yeah.
They're strong. They've got skin, right? But then everything else, like dex, intelligence, and wisdom, tend to be like your neutral, right? With their wisdom being a little bit higher.
The one difference that they have above a lot of other dragons, not all of them, of course, but a lot of them, is they have that burrow speed.
Yes, and I was going to talk about that as we get to our increases here. Because I love that, because their speed basically stops increasing at young brass and stops at 40. But then what continues to increase is their burrow speed.
Yeah.
So they basically are like, my walking speed, this is as fast as I'm going to go. Sorry about it, fam. But if they dive under the sand as they get older, the faster they get.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like their environment, their thing, right? Which I think is really cool. But as for them, their saving throws, of course, are dex, con, wiz, and charisma. Skills lie within perception and stealth. Perception really fits into that regional effect where they can detect you when you are really close to them, right? They do have an immunity to fire because that does bleed into their breath attack. Senses, they have blind sight of 10 feet, dark vision of 60 feet, and a passive perception of 14. Again, really bleeding into the fact that they can see you coming from anywhere. It does only list Draconic as a language, but as we kind of stated, that most dragons will learn a language within an hour. So if you're a DM and building this into your world, you would almost consider what languages are native to that land. And a wormling might have that at a young age, I think.
I think it says in the text that even the wormlings will learn the languages in as fast as an hour. I think I would use that as almost like a clue as to who's been around the dragon before. Like if it starts speaking Dwarvish and Elvish, you're like, oh, okay, well, it's just kind of a clue of what's been going on in their life. I would kind of
that's
play
really
that into the
interesting.
campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially as a wormling, like you walk up to a wormling and it just starts speaking to you in the two languages it knows. Draconic, because of course, and, I don't know, Gith.
Yeah.
And you're like, when were you talking to Gith?
Because they're not, yeah, exactly, right? But
Right.
if you were hunting Gith for whatever reason, because they're not that intelligent at that point.
They're really not.
So even if you're talking to the parent, we're trying to track this, like, Gith, for example, Gith Yankee, and then they start speaking Gith. Ha! He's been here! Because your idiot dragon kid just said it, like a parrot.
Well, but I also think that because if you think about their parental tactiles, their parents stay with them. So they would probably learn languages from their parents as well. Mm-hmm. Right?
Oh,
So they might not even need to meet and interact with something to learn that language. They just learn it from their parents and from their library.
I would say, like, they're the guys who sit down with a book and just figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they're going to sit down. They might not understand the language, but it's like that. What's that movie with Antonio Banderas where he's with the Vikings?
Oh, he's got wet hair.
Yeah, like the entire movie.
It's leave-in conditioner.
The 13th Warrior, I want to say.
13th Warrior, where he learns a language overnight.
Where he
Yeah,
learns their
absolutely.
language overnight, like over the campfire. That's what a brass dragon does. It's just like sitting down. Oh, they're talking about my mother. Okay.
Yeah.
How quaint. That's all. Yes, she is kind of like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Right? And because they're brass, they're just like, yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. Like the concept of like, if you walk into a dragon's lair with a wormling that doesn't know your language, or even a dragon that does, and you're trying to communicate, but you can tell that it's not going to hurt you, so you're kind of talking amongst your team, being like, what do we do? Like, how can we communicate? Like, trying to figure it out. Like, an hour passes, and all of a sudden the dragon is like, guys, like, I can understand what you're saying now, so... Like,
or like you just keep talking about it, then it just goes, ugh. Like when you say something...
rolls its eyes randomly.
I just did a quick check. Brass dragons are actually, of the metallic dragons, they're the least intelligent of all of them.
Stat-wise, yeah.
Stat-wise, they are.
Well, I actually prefer that, because that means that they're curious because they're actually trying to learn, or they're not as intelligent as you, but they recognize that as well, because they're not arrogant.
No, not
It's
at
not
all.
like the greens and the blues and the reds.
But, like, even the ancient is listed as only having common and draconic. I wouldn't have that. An ancient brass dragon has been around for eons.
I think
they
you homebrew
speak
it.
everything.
It knows its shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he wants to know what dialect of primordial you speak.
Well, exactly. It's going to know certainly all of the basics, Elvish, Dwarvish, Gnomish, all that sort of stuff.
I feel like it's one that would like to practice its accent, too. So it knows the language, but it'll run into someone who has the proper accent and be like, keep talking, I need to learn the accent, right? Like,
My God.
I just feel like that's what he would do.
No, I'm yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
Are you Métis French? Are you Quebecois French? Are you France French?
Yeah.
Like, which one
which
is
one
it?
this?
Papua New Guinea? Where are you from?
Give me that dialect. As for actions at a young age, of course, they have their bite capabilities, which is kind of normal for any dragon. They do have breath weapon attacks with only 5 to 6 charges. I always found it weird that doesn't really, their charges don't really increase.
No, that's what you roll to
With
activate it again.
Yeah.
With how powerful their breath weapons are, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, you're like, I'm fine.
I'm good.
It's good.
I'm good. And especially since they get their choice of 2 eventually.
Well, the thing is they have 2 to start as a wormling, which also is very rare, I find, in dragons. 1 being their fire breath, which they get right away, which is very, very deadly to start with. So if you were to come across a brass wormling and you scare it, it will probably kill you, even though it's just a little wormling. So be careful. Don't piss off a brass wormling.
No.
So basically what that is the dragon exhales fire in a 20-foot line that is 5 feet wide. Each creature in that line must make a DC 11 dexterity saving throw, taking 14 or 4d6 fire damage on a failed save, or half damage on a successful one.
I love the idea of the fire line over the cone as well, because that's different. It kind of, for like a Warhammer reference, you know, the flamethrower with the cone compared to like the melter gun or whatever.
Yep,
You know,
yeah,
Or like
wow,
your
I
fireball
kinda like
AoE.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, current edition has done away with all the templates, so...
Has it really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. That's
There's
how
no
I
such
was
thing as
like,
cones or lines or anything anymore.
Ah, those
That's
bastards.
for another podcast, guys.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about. You're just saying words right now. The other one is their sleep breath. So this is, of course, that one that will put you to sleep so that you have to listen to it talk forever. So basically, they exhale sleep gas in a 15-foot cone. Each creature in that area must succeed on a DC 11 Constitution saving throw or fall unconscious. So this is a saving throw.
Yeah,
Yep.
this is different. This is not the sleep spell.
Yeah.
And I love this, though. I prefer this.
That's what I say. I like the idea of it being a save versus a...
I think the sleep spell should be a save. I think it would get used more if it was.
Yeah, I think so.
No, I'd agree with you. It also breaks the trend of all the other spells, because every other thing like that is a save or suck, right? Sleep is the one that isn't.
Yeah.
Which I both like and dislike about it.
Yeah.
I also like that this is different in a way where brass dragons are chaotic good. They're going to put you to sleep, and they're either going to run away. They're not going to kill you. They're either going to run away, or they're just going to crouch down next to you and wait till you wake up and see what you say while you sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the reason that they did it the hit point style is so that it's not overpowered in that, because it's a con save, right?
Yeah.
So, like, when you get to fight your lich at the end, you don't just put him to sleep, you know?
Yeah, it's true.
I would love to see, just for the mental image, them change the sleep to the traditional sleep spell method. Just because you, as a DM, turn to all your players and go, okay, so I'm just going to grab several handfuls of dice.
Everybody give me
and
your dice.
roll them, and then I start counting.
Yeah.
And
They'll
I'm not
think it's
telling you
damage.
exactly
Yeah.
what's going on, but the anxiety at the table would go through the roof because
Someone's getting mad. Someone's
Yeah,
crying.
someone's flipped a table. Someone's like throwing their chair across the room.
This is fucking bullshit.
because even as a wormling, CR1, like you're fighting this as a level 1 party,
Yeah.
right? So you just grab 4d6 and say, All right. Well, 24 hit points.
All right. But to remind you, and that's a good... since this is the first Metallic Dragon podcast, I think it's good to note that most Metallic Dragons... In fact, all of the Metallic Dragons are technically on the good side of the scale.
I don't lean into that too much.
Technically.
That's why I say technically.
I always say good according to who. Because you're still their food.
Yeah, and they are still selfish. There are still all of these things that make them do things of other things. But technically they are, in comparison to their chromatic brethren, they are more...
Yeah.
On that good scale side.
That's right. They're not.
They have no
malicious.
interest in killing you until you attack them, right?
Well, I would argue that they would still eat you.
Well, that's why if you think about trying to make them into a big, big bad, which we'll talk about later, I think that, there's ways. So as it grows up, it goes into a young brass dragon. There's not a whole heck of a lot added, except for they added a claw attack, which also is contingent with having a multi-attack. So now they can do claw and bite for their physical attacks. Their breath weapons stay pretty much the same. They just increase the DC and some of the dice for damage.
Their blind sight also gets pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, increases to 30 feet, and their dark vision is 120 feet. So they do get increases there. And again, their speed does increase to 40, and their burrow speed is at 20, and their fly speed is at 80. So you do see the physical increase in all of their stats from Wormling to Young Brass Dragon. As they get into and grow up into be adults, their multi-attack increases and adds in its tail. So it can actually now use its tail as kind of a bludgeoning, whipping awesomeness. They end up developing frightful presence. As you think about it, the dragon itself is getting larger, so obviously it's going to start becoming more frightening to a regular PC as they come into its presence. So it's a DC 16 Wisdom saving throw, or be frightened.
I love that even a good dragon still gets frightful presence.
Oh, heck yeah. It's a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to walk out to me, hey man,
and my argument is always don't think good like you are good. You are their food.
Yeah.
100%. I'm good, but I will kill a cow. It's just, that's the way it is.
Well, they are technically, they do eat, they're meat eaters. They are. And it is stated in a couple of their, the writings that they do eat meat. So if you are food to it, it will eat you.
But a brass dragon will also, and I think this is almost exclusively brass, maybe silver would do this too, work out a deal with a local farmer to provide livestock. Mm-hmm. Because if I get hungry... I gotta do what I gotta do. I'm sorry.
It will usually trade away its shiny things that it doesn't want for people to bring it food, basically, is how I imagine it.
A brass dragon is legitimately just buying its food.
Buying its food, yeah.
Yeah.
He is giving into the economy of his area.
Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. Giving back.
Just hand-waving Skyride for Uber Eats. Bring me a cow.
Could you imagine? It's the Uber Eats of D&D. Other than that, of course, the DCs increase through both their fire weapon and their sleep attack. And, of course, the dice increase for damage. You're all the way up at 13d6 for fire damage for their laser fire attack.
Laser fire.
It also increases in length, I should mention.
It's a good name for a band.
I know.
Laser fire.
Laser fire.
That's a good name for an American... No, that's a good name for an American gladiator contestant.
There you go.
What's your name? Laser Fire.
I think Laser was one of the American...
Laser 100% was one.
I watched the British gladiators, though. They weren't named.
No, Laser 100% was one. There's two of them that had a laser in their name.
Oh, God. Cool. Also, so let's continue on.
I don't believe that Megan thought that was cool.
No, I did not.
Okay. She who spent Valentine's Day at...
I did go to WWE SmackDown for Valentine's Day.
Right, SmackDown.
Did you really?
We did, yeah.
I would do that as well, though. I'd love it.
That's bad.
I'd be like, Paige!
No, it was good. It was a good time.
Good.
Yeah. Well, anyways. Ancient brass dragons, your big monsters. These guys here, their multi-attack increases, and of course, DC and hitting capability. Frightful presence increases, DC of 18 for wisdom, so you'll not be frightened by this big guy. And then, of course, your breath attacks increase in DC, as well as dice hits. This one jumps all the way up to 16d6 for your fire attack. And I believe it increases in length again as well. 90 feet.
I got beef with Frightful Presence.
Talk to me about
I'll tell you
Frightful
for
Presence.
Tell us for why, Terry.
The problem is, for me, and I see why they've done it, is I don't believe it should be a wisdom save, but I can't think what else it should be. Because surely it is more likely that your very knowledgeable wizard will be afraid of the dragon, and your idiot barbarian is probably going to be the one that wants to run forwards. But this would suggest it's more likely that your barbarian, your fighter, is going to be afraid, and like your cleric's going to be okay.
Well, I mean, your barbarian has advantage on wisdom saves to be frightened.
True enough, but I think at the end of the day, it also kind of ties into: are you smart enough to understand your adversary? So, like, your stupid barbarian's like, I want to fucking fight this, yeah! So they won't save it, so they're not going to save.
Oh, so you're kind of flipping
it, right?
Whereas
the wizard is just like, no, bitch, stop that! Like, this thing is legitimately frightening.
Stop, like, we'll still try and kill it, but do it from over here.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
So it kind of ties back into, like, even just sanity saves, and we talked about sanity and honor and that kind of stuff.
Oh, it's more like, are you wise enough to understand
what you're fighting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas, like, a wizard, they are smart enough to know what they're fighting, so they know to stand back and be like, no, I understand this is scary, so I'm not going to attack it. Or they don't understand what it is, and they see it, and they're like, I've never seen this in my textbooks. What is this? And I'm frightened of it.
Yeah.
Right? That's how I see it anyways. I don't know. Could go either way, really.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's kind of like how brass dragons work.
That's brass dragons.
That's it.
Cool.
So,
Shut her down.
right? So what it is, let's roll, and just thinking about everything brass dragon, let's maybe talk about our either favorite mechanical aspect or maybe go-to combat maneuver, and we'll just roll and see what you guys want to chat
We'll
about.
roll, and then you tell us what to talk about.
Terry, you're on fire today,
You know what?
buddy.
I am, and I was playing Dungeons and Dragons last night, and I was on fucking fire then. I tell you what, I was.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
You're in a good spot. That's a 19 for Terry, 16 for Megan, and a 7 for me.
What am I answering?
Let's talk about your favorite mechanical aspect.
My favorite mechanical aspect, and this may seem a little bit obvious, but it's the sleep breath.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because, I'll tell you for why, Dan.
Thank you.
Because I love the ideas of brass dragons, because they're kind of non-combatant, and because they don't want to fight, because they're more likely to escape. I love the idea of a dragon that's just putting you to sleep to try and get away from you. Because we see dragons in Dungeons and Dragons. It's like trophies, right? It's like, oh my god, we want to kill the dragon. But the dragon might kill us. What about the trophy that just keeps running away from you? And it's like inconvenient. Fuck, he did it again. You wake up and everybody wakes up. He's gone again. Now we got to spend another 3 sessions trying to find him. Because he's run away. So I love the sleep breath for that. And I also have combat tactics, which we'll get into later when Megan asks me.
Yeah.
Using sleep breath. Sleep breath.
Sleep breath?
Okay, Megan, what's
It's
your...
more like bad breath. It just kind of knocks you out, maybe.
Maybe that's what it is.
But you are going
I don't
unconscious.
imagine that their breath is going to...
No, I think their breath smells like chamomile.
Yeah, just chamomile.
Yeah, they just... And everyone goes, oh, that's pretty.
Yeah. Is that Bengal spice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It smells cinnamony. And just down.
Honestly, now I'm also picturing that these dragons love scented candles.
Oh, yes.
There's just like 1,000 around the room. They're not just candles. They're
Or
scented.
if you just show up, they're horrified because they haven't cleaned up yet.
Yeah.
They're not prepared. They're not prepared. I had no idea that I was going to have
Okay, you
visitors.
guys, 10 minutes.
We've got like a duster on the tail, and he's got like a mop in one arm. And
An apron. Just like
pushing.
standing up on its
You're
hind
like,
legs.
yeah, exactly. A paladin, the fighter stuff is like, coming. Like, he says, hang on a second. What do you mean, hang on a second? We're here to invade the lair. He says, hang on a second.
But that is kind of my favorite mechanical aspect of these guys, is that they do tend to have very organized layers.
Yeah.
So if you're building a dungeon that is a brass dragon's lair, you are going to have like the entrance hall. So like the foyer.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go in further, like, this is a really nice place. And then you're going to find like their hall of nice chairs and tables. And you're going to go and you're going to find their beautiful gallery of all these paintings. Like, these are really nice.
Exactly.
Like,
Even in dragon form, I'm still wearing a cravat. Like,
Yeah.
I just threw it on. I
I didn't even know I had company. It's just something that I just wear.
This is my
I was wearing
comfortable
it.
wear.
I forgot. Yeah.
I didn't even put on regular pants. I don't even know what I'm doing. But I think that's my favorite piece, because I think as an adventurer, it's a good change of pace for dungeons. Because I find that our dungeons are always dark and dreary, or...
This guy's full of comedy.
Yeah,
Like,
right?
full of comedy.
You can really lean into that, like, again, that cleaning aspect, or like, I really like my house to be clean and organized. Whereas, like, if you walked into a room and he saw a pile of things, he would probably, like, brush them under the table calmly as he's continuing to talk to you, right?
I love it.
So like the claw is picking up a corner of a carpet and the wing is brushing some dirt under the carpet while he's trying to maintain eye contact.
Even after you leave, you can imagine the dragon be like, oh, they hated me, didn't they? They hated me. What the hell is this that I'm wearing? Bloody for food.
It's actually very self-conscious.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. But I also like the aspect of, like, if you went into the weaponsy room, it would be full of all sentient weapons. And then like your party would start talking to them like, help us.
Get us out
of here.
Please.
I will be with you forever if you just get me out of this room, right? And then the dragon comes like, hey, buddy.
Yeah, literally the only thing I could do is talk, and this thing talks more than me. Yeah. Help me, please.
Oh my god, I love it. What about you, Dan?
I honestly, it's a little mentioned in the layer actions. For one, I love the burrow speed of them. Just mechanically, I love the fact that this massive, like I just envision like this limestone cavern that they live in, and they've spent the time to work it all out, right? But they still have ways to just disappear into the sands and get out, right? Yeah. They'll put you to sleep, and then they hit the ground, and they're gone, and you're never finding them. You're never following them. They're done. Like, yeah. I love that of them. But probably my favorite little thing about them is in their layer actions, it does say that for their first of their layer actions, this is the strong wind that blows around. It says gases and vapors are dispersed. That makes sense. And unprotected flames are extinguished. Protected flames, such as lanterns, have a 50% chance of being extinguished. This implies that the dragon has lanterns hanging in their lair. And that the dragon...
Oh, they're chandeliers.
Yeah, the dragon has chandeliers, and they're very, very careful to make sure those lights don't go out because they have guests coming.
Do you think there's sand in the lair? Because they're desert dwellers, but they're also very meticulous.
Oh, no. It's probably like, it's like dusted. Like, every day, his morning routine is dusting.
There's like a mud room. Like, off to the side.
Well, you enter in through a cave, and then there's that nice little sign, please remove your boots. And the second you cross over, it's like perfectly polished limestone floors.
This is the only time I've had to remove my boots. Like he's like
holes in his socks.
One big toe sticking out as he's walking in.
Such humiliating.
And the dragon has like a pile of like socks that don't have pairs, just from like other people that have visited the lair and been like, I have clean ones if you'd like.
What are you, a size 6? Here you go.
Their boot, and also when you get back, their boots will have been washed and pressed by some minion of this dragon.
I love it. Or even a minion that'll be like, you're required to wear a jacket when you go in, but you can rent one if you.
This is the only dragon lair that's got a coat check. Yeah, I love
with
it.
like dry cleaning at the same time.
I just love the idea of your party coming in and there's like this wave of just prestidigitation and everyone's armor just gets instantly polished as they walk into the presence.
That's what when you're like checking for traps and you find like the mechanism or something like that's all it is, just prestidigitation.
Yeah, all it does is clean you. Yeah, just to make like it gives it doesn't cut the dwarf's hair. But it does, fix the braids and maybe polish the beard ring.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, Lord. I love it so much. Awesome. Let's roll again and talk about... We can probably combine, like, your favorite tier of combat mixed in with maybe your go-to maneuver.
Sure. Okay, cool. I got 19.
I also got a 19.
17. Man, I lost to the 17.
I got a 10.
Okay, I got an 18.
All right.
I kind of already mentioned it with the put you to sleep and run the hell away.
Yeah.
But I also don't think that the brass dragon it's the one dragon that's not really going to get in a fight. Right? Like, let's be honest, this guy is just going to go because clearly you need a Snickers. So he's going to put you to sleep, lay out a little grouping of food for your party because you're clearly grumpy. I'll be back tomorrow. And he'll leave you a little note. And then he's going to hit the ground and go.
Yeah.
Right? But... if you actually end up fighting one of these guys, which I would not recommend, it is the laser beam fire breath.
Yeah.
Right? Just that, okay, you have finally pissed this guy off. He's got endless patience, but you finally, it's the straw that broke the brass dragon's back.
You put the lid right on the jar.
So he is going to burn you with laser vision, right? And he is going to just Superman the hell out of you.
Yeah.
Like, I love... everything about the laser.
Because it's still narrow hallways and stuff, right?
It's narrow hallways, and the way he's built his like little his lair or wherever he is. I mean, he's got shape change as a legendary creature as a humanoid. So he's probably built his lair mostly to facilitate his size because he wants to be on the same playing field as everybody, right? Like no one wants to walk in and see a big terrifying dragon. They'd rather walk in and see, my alter ego Chuck.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be Chuck until you piss me off.
Yeah. And
then I will annihilate you with melted beams. Right? Like, I just love that. That's me.
Love it.
I like it. It's you.
Go-to combat maneuver. Okay, let's imagine we are fighting. I won't jump on what Dan said, and just because I do like the idea of the brass dragons trying to run away a lot. I think that would be incredibly frustrating. Is for once you actually can't catch the dragon. Yeah. But the sleep breath weapon, I think, should be used to split the party. Because they're constantly going to be moving, right, and trying to get away from you. Some will fall unconscious, some will save. But you're going to move down the hallways, and now they're going to follow you into room 2. A couple of rounds go by, sleep breath them again, split them again. And now you have that one person left all by themselves, and everybody else is 3 rooms back because you've spread them out with the sleep breath. Using your burrow speed as well, where they're going to be forced to follow you down those little tunnels and things. Sleep breath, I think, is often used wrong, like I said. But I think in this case, you should use it to split the party. Get the action economy on your side, playing the part of the dragon, and then fuck them up one at a time. And I think they will kick themselves to death. And I think it's one of those things where they will know, you know when you know that you're being played or that something's happening, but you just keep going along with it? It's like when you get scammed, like on the street, like the steam clock or whatever in Gastown. Like, it's like that. You kind of know it's happening, but you just keep going with it, Maybe we can just dig through. And I think that's how I would get them. Yeah.
Yep.
Split the party with sleep breath.
I like it. That's cool. I wanted to lean into the fact that its environment is inherently sand. So yes, we talked about how they would probably keep their keep very clean and tidy, and they probably sweep it up at night. But I feel like they would have sand traps in their ceiling, so that if they were to suddenly get invaded in their main keep, they can basically just all of a sudden dump a ton of sand into their lair, and then it becomes difficult terrain for the people wandering around in it, right? So the whole concept is they would put you to sleep so they can dunk you into a thing of sand and trap you there so they have to listen to you. Their way of slowing your people down from getting too close to it so it can run away is just dump sand and then piss off, right? Yeah. So I would almost be like, that's, if I was to be a brass dragon, that is how I would ensure that I would not be hurt. But I was trying to think also if I wanted to fight a brass dragon, and I thought about this, and I thought this was really funny in my head. If I was to be a party that was actually going to go and fight a brass dragon, I would light its gallery on fire.
You're a terrible person.
You know what I mean?
Attack its heart.
Or fight it in its gallery. Because it would never use its breath weapon against its own items.
That's 100%. That's awesome.
So smart.
Right?
Yes.
I just see like the party finally getting it and just like lighting statues on fire or like works of art and just like picking them up the wall and being like, rip.
Right?
Right? And just like making eye contact and slowly ripping. And the dragon's like, no.
I'd do that as a DM. I'd break out of initiative real quick. Just, no, please not that one. Please not that one. Please not that one. Please not that one. Everybody, let's go 10 feet this way. Let's go 10 feet this way. Okay, but you got to agree not to hit the wizard in the face or something. Okay, I won't hit the wizard if you put the vase down.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, let's move. Assume the same positions. Let's go.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting that down. Oh my god. But I thought that would be really neat, especially if you're thinking about its social aspects, is it wouldn't want to hurt its own items. So if you attack it in its main keep, it's going to attack you back. But if you lure it into its areas where it will not attack you.
Brilliant. I lean into that so much. I'd take away like action limbs by having it like catch the vase and then now having to fly around with the vase. So the left hand just go like trying to catch the scepter in the one claw. So the multi attack is now no longer exists. It's just a bite. That's awesome.
Oh my god!
It's got like a painting like in its jaws, just like flying around.
So good. All right. Well, I do feel like we did talk about kind of like its social aspects, like to death, the pieces that we liked. I don't know if you guys have anything else you wanted to kind of add to that.
I would like to use... I totally flip brass dragons in my head in that you shouldn't be afraid to go and see them, really. Yeah. I think you can manipulate them in that, you're right, Dan, they are gossips, they're going to have all of the knowledge. If you need knowledge from somewhere, you can go to the brass dragon. Or if you want to play it like The Departed, if you want to give somebody the wrong knowledge... tell it to the brass dragon and it will get to them.
Yeah.
Like you can, if you're like playing like strategic warfare, you can lean into the fact that this guy's an absolute chatty Cathy. Just tell him whatever you want and it will spread. It will spread. So yeah, I would totally manipulate a brass dragon, I think.
Did you hear that King Dressic is just,
Shut up.
He's just...
My lips are sealed. My lips are sealed.
You can't tell anybody. You just, you can't. And then you walk away going, yes. And you just see him flying off to the next city as fast as he possibly can.
Exactly.
Do we want to roll for talking about more of their social capabilities? And because I feel like we have a little bit more to say about its social characteristics.
What did I get there?
I got a 2.
Going down.
Yeah, we tied again with 2.
Oh, I'm going first with an 8.
Oh.
I now have a 2. What does that mean?
No, you're still going first.
Okay.
Still going first, but I will go after you.
Um,
So why don't we talk about, because we talked about a little bit more of its mechanical aspects, its combat. So you did talk a little bit just now about a little bit more of its social aspects. So maybe we'll go deeper into maybe its allies, or even into just a basic social encounter that you would use.
sure. I would use it for...
Before we do that, we should definitely hit a commercial.
All right, everybody, let's go to a commercial break.
Hey guys, Dan here with It's a Mimic. We are having another mailbag episode, mailbag number 7, on March 19th. And we are still looking for a couple questions. We will answer anything under the sun. If you've heard the other ones, you know this. You know this well. So hit us at info@itsamimic.com and we'll throw them on the sheets. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
And now talk about your thing.
I would use them for psychological warfare.
Okay.
Kind of Mean Girls style. I would start telling that dragon that the other dragons are talking shit, or whatever. The dragons were talking shit.
I heard this blue dragon over here was like talking
Yeah.
shit about your
Oh,
wings.
it's not as big as they said it. What's not as big? That on your face. The king has been telling everybody not to pay attention to your big weird whatever, and get them to then just spread absolute poison, because they're chatty Cathy's, just going out and spreading absolute poison and kind of just. I don't think it needs to be all about hit points and standing and banging and slashing and stuff like that. I think you can use intrigue and manipulation things very well with brass dragons, because they're going to talk, and they're basically going to regurgitate whatever you say to them. And I think you can use them for political intrigue. Just like sabotage with their words.
Yep.
It's true.
Okay.
I like the idea of leaning into some of its the things that it tries to make friends with. So it likes to make friends with genies, jinn, sphinxes, anything of the desert, right? So if you're kind of traveling into going to go see a dragon, I like the idea of almost making your presence known to its friends, because its friends are going to go back and tell the dragon that you're coming.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you are giving the dragon time to prepare for your arrival.
Yeah.
So you can tell stories about yourselves.
Yeah.
And be like, like, we just destroyed this, we just did this. Like, tell them, like, valiant stories of what you've already done.
Yeah.
So by the time you get there, like, it's already excited that you've arrived.
Yeah.
Because it's like, the heroes are here, right? And so you can kind of lean into that social aspect of it, utilizing its allies that are coming to it, right?
Yeah.
Or, like, if you run into a genie, or you wouldn't randomly run into one, but maybe a sphinx or something as you're going through the desert, you could basically just have that conversation and chat about what the dragon is up to and stuff, and maybe get a little bit out of them, because they're probably chatty Cathy's too that just want to bitch and moan about how this thing talks all the time, right?
Yeah.
So you could actually gather information about the dragon before you get there, which I think is kind of neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, because the rest of the dragons, you have like the like folk tales and stuff about what's involved, but you probably won't know too many details about that dragon specifically.
Yeah.
But this brass dragon, I think you could learn. Yeah.
Yeah, you could learn if it does have a gallery, or if it has, like, does it like paintings, or
What
does
is
it
its
like
most
pottery?
prized possession?
Like, what is its most prized possession? So you can kind of gather that info about it because of its chatty Cathy aspect.
I'd almost say that the brass dragon is going out to town and, like, putting on a gallery of their art.
Yes.
Right? Like,
I now imagine him wearing, like, a beret.
yeah.
Yeah.
And a cummerbund.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like, just walking in and being as trying so hard to be the suavest person in the room, and mostly pulling it off, but at the same time, like, there's that edge to him that is kind of off-putting. But this is the guy who is having dinner parties with the adventurers. Like, he's heard of you. I would flip the rumor thing and say he's heard of you because of the rumors, and because of that, I want to know about you.
Yeah.
Right? This guy, to me, is the ultimate bard trying to bring in more stories, right? So my guess is, if you are coming into this guy's lair, not only does he have, the gallery of the works of art and the gallery of the statues and the room of the intelligent weapons that are all chained up and screaming for help, but no one can hear it because they're behind an iron wall or a lead wall. He's got an army of half-elf bards who sit there, and they're the coat check, they're the butler, they're the they're the waiter that comes and serves. But when they come in with, like, the plate of food for the party that he's invited in for the dinner party, he goes, "Well, this is Charles. I found him, displaced from his tribe when he was 3, and he's been with me for what, 36 years now, Charles? Yes, it's been 36 years. He's a great man. You could trust him impeccably with any sort of, information you wish to give him, or if you need your armor polished, we could always just give it to Charles, or he knows the first name of everyone in his employ.
Yeah.
He's the boss that comes in at like an hour early every day, just to make sure that, he gets a chance to talk with everybody before the workday starts. And even still, he's going to talk with people throughout the day.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's just that guy, but he's got this little army, and then he'll pull the party in and be like, okay, one second, let me get my bards ready. Gentlemen, are you ready for the story time? Like, are you ready? You got your quills, you got your paper, you got enough? Do we need extra, Charles? Can you get some more paper? Okay, now, Mr. Barbarian, you said your name of the tribe of the elk. Fantastic. I knew a barbarian of the tribe of the elk once. Anyways, continue. Tell us the story. Start from the beginning.
Oh my god, you'd be so good at just playing a goddamn brass dragon.
Right?
Like, brass dragon.
This guy is just talking to the party endlessly, and you just see the barbarian, like I just witnessed Terry's face, just go from this is interesting, to a straight scowl.
He's monologuing again. That's
Because your monologue went on for a minute.
But like I love the idea of like this brass dragon just sitting there, and just he authentically wants to know every detail about your life.
Nobody's mentioned the fact that putting you to sleep with the sleep breath, and then we wake up in glass cases and with the sentient items.
Oh, could you imagine? Okay, no, I just imagined now. He collects heroes.
Have I ever watched Heroes?
No, it's a brass dragon that collects heroes. Okay. So he hears stories about you, you come to visit him, traps you with his sleep thing, puts you in a glass case, and now you are on display as one of his collectibles. And he has a room full of heroes.
Maybe he likes reenactments like Simple Jack. And maybe he wants you to reenact. Yeah. And he shall play the part of the Red Dragon or something.
So, very, very prevalent in a lot of desert landscapes are Yuan Ti. Mm-hmm. And very snake-themed monsters. He's got a friend who's a Medusa.
Mm. Yeah.
So, like, he's sitting down for the dinner party, and then he calls in, his friend Susan.
His buds.
Who comes in and, turns you all to stone so he could keep you long-term. And then he'll just grab that one item, because he also they like grabbing items that let them communicate as well. Mm-hmm. So he'll grab that one item that gives him telepathy, a helm of telepathy, as it were. He'll put that on, and then he'll just talk to you as you're stuck in stone.
Oh.
Ugh.
Awful.
Oh, goddamn.
All right.
That added a dark friggin' tone to these guys.
But that's the thing is, we've been talking about these brass dragons like they're just this hilarious, like, Wooster and Jeeves type herp-a-derp dragon. Yeah. But really, there could be a very sinister dark side. So, if you're thinking about making this character a big bad, again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Like, those are some of the darker things you can put in there. Like, why in your mind would you want to fight a brass dragon? They just seem so goddamn cool to talk to.
Yeah.
Like, it boggles my mind. But when you start thinking about that, the vindictiveness and the fact that they are selfish and they are dragons and you are food and all these things.
I just thought, how dare you come to my lair? But no harm, no foul. It'll be fine. In fact, I'll do you one favor. Your entire goal as a human, you're so short-lived. Let me do this one favor for you. You will live forever. Turns you to stone. Puts you inside of a case.
Oh,
yikes.
Yeah.
And it's that twisted version of good.
Yeah. I like it.
What else we got?
Well, we can continue to talk about social encounters, or we can move on to our campaign usage.
Yeah, we should probably do a shout out first.
Let's do a shoot out.
Hey guys, Dan here. As you guys know, we've spent the last year shouting out all of those podcasts, content creators, and D&D groups that we as hosts of this podcast love and get our inspiration from. But as we hit year 2, we decided that we had enough of telling you who we love and asked for you all to send us which content creators, podcasts, or groups that you love so that they could get some shameless plugging here. You all responded in droves, and we encourage you to keep sending us your shoutouts to info@itsamimic.com. But today we get started. We sat and rolled the dice and came up with today's shoutout, courtesy of Alexander Davis. We at the It's a Mimic podcast want to shout out the Save for Half podcast, a look at classic tabletop games and the modern games inspired by them. Save for Half is a panel discussion podcast, much like us, who review and cover those often forgotten and misremembered games of days past. Join DMs Mike, Liz, Corbett, and Jim as they inject perspective, humor, and ample wisdom, reviewing those games of yesteryear that hit the mark, as well as the games who botched their roles and ended up dead in a ditch outside Waterdeep with a weird unknown neck tattoo. You can find Save for Half on many podcast catchers, as well as www.saveforhalf.com.
All right, let's talk about campaign usage on these guys. Let's roll and talk about when you would use it as a big bad evil.
Let's go.
Ooh, not 20. Oh, man.
Yeah, you're going first.
I will, absolutely. So my idea of this being a big bad evil guy would be, again, I really wanted to think about why would you ever want to fight a brass dragon or consider it something to be evil. So the only thing I can really think is that it would have almost like a power over its environment. So let's say it lives in a desert where there's desert towns and people live in it. It's kind of like the king of the area, because everybody knows that if you piss off this brass dragon, it will probably come capture you and then talk you to death. So they are just like, the town is outwardly kind to this dragon.
Mm-hmm.
They want it to go away because it annoys the hell out of them. They know it's not going to hurt them, but they're just annoyed by it. Mm-hmm. So if you as a party were coming into this town, you would see like inklings and notes of these people being like, we really wish this dragon would go away. Like, we don't want it to die or like anything like that. He's a really good guy, but he's really fucking annoying. Whenever he comes to town, all he does is like show off all of his amazing gallery stuff and his beautiful paintings, and it's just really fucking annoying. This guy's so pompous. Like, they're just annoyed by his personality.
Same jokes as well.
Right? Just all the time, right? And so in my mind, I'm like, it's almost like you wouldn't want to fight it, but you would, as a team, would probably go and see it as a big bad evil guy because you were trying to get rid of it to help this town be able to grow and evolve. Because it's almost like the dragon doesn't want this town to change in fear that it would lose the people that it would talk to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So no, everyone's afraid to leave. Everyone's afraid to change. It's almost like if you were to walk into a Disney movie, everything is the same every day.
Oh, like
it's very Stepford Wives.
Very Stepford Wives, yeah.
Hot Fuzz, where they want to win the best village.
For the greater good.
Yeah.
For the greater good, yeah.
So, oh my gosh, he's like, so the dragon would be like the boss that walks through, like making sure all the flowers are in arrangement, like moving things to the side and being like, hey, Joseph, this needs to be on this side tomorrow. Don't want to see it on the left side. It's got to be on the right side. Like, is constantly critical of everything everybody's doing.
But like, but yesterday he said something slightly different as well.
Yeah,
it's like,
I really like it in the center. It's like, what do you want from me? Right?
Hate to be a nagging Nelly, but
he's the middle manager that everyone hates.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, fuck.
I am a middle manager, so I know exactly what that's like. So I just think that would be really hilarious. So it would almost be painted as a big bad, but you have to figure out a different way to deal with it because it's not necessarily hurting or killing anyone. It's just really harming this town from doing anything other than what it's doing. Yeah. Right?
I would... Am I going next?
Yeah. Next.
I think these are perfect for a one-shot. My idea for a one-shot being, make your way to the lair or whatever. If you want to just fight an ancient brass could be good because their lair is going to be full of these very preserved, powerful, sentient items and things like that. And I like building puzzles into combat. And I like the idea of the true thing about the combat is you're trying to unlock the items as you go through, smashing the glass, grabbing the sword, grabbing the foot. What does that fancy helmet do over there? And using those as part of the combat because that will also increase your power as you go through. So it's very scary at first, but the more items you can get, or like what's behind the paintings and all that, the more powerful you will become in order to defeat the dragon. So I think brass dragons could be great for a one shot. Or the other idea I have is actually using the more powerful, like the ancient or the adult brass dragons in very early tiers. Get them while your players are lower level, because these dragons actually, they don't want to fight. They want to get away. So if you have those players that have that fantasy of, kill the dragon, well, then you can flip it because this dragon's probably going to try and escape if you're like level 8, 9, 10 or something and you're kind of doing some sort of damage. So you can scratch that itch or fulfill that fantasy of killing the dragon because it's probably not going to try and kill you. It's just going to try and get away.
Or I feel like it would almost be an information mule for you, for your beginner party.
Yeah, you can bring it in early.
But then you can make them evil in the sense that they're just like, hey, like I heard that this blue dragon is terrorizing this town, but really it's not. It just wants you to go kill this blue dragon, so it's out of its territory.
Yeah. Yeah, these dragons. You're right. They seem to be like adjustable. You seem to be able to play with these a lot more. Like a black dragon, for example, it's always going to be sadistic. It likes to hurt you. It's going to be the same type of trap. Yeah. These guys, you can use them in different ways, and it still rings true to what the text is telling you. The flavor text.
Yeah, still fits.
So for me, as a big bad evil guy, I would have these guys. They are the guy who is shape change. That, like you said, the party meets early. Right? And he might be in a position of power within this little desert city, but he is the guy who is manipulating the party every step of the way. And you don't know until maybe mid-tier 2 that there's something off about this guy other than he's just rich and powerful nobility in this little desert town. And his main thing is he wants you to squash this dragon cult. Right? And all he wants out of you is evidence that you are squashing this blue dragon cult. Right? Now, this blue dragon cult is extremely powerful because just down like 10 miles down into the desert is the blue dragon's lair, and he's causing all sorts of hell. And this brass dragon is not necessarily trying to take over the land, but is more trying to take over the possessions that the blue dragon has. Yeah. Because the blue dragon and the brass dragon align in how they collect things. A blue dragon is going to collect people and is going to collect like bards and people who are great at what they do, right? The brass dragon wants the people. So the blue has been convenient, but ultimately is torturing these poor people, these poor souls. So you guys need to go and, take out his cults, take him out, get him out of here so that we can get these people back. And then as soon as he gets the people back, we're doing he's turning everyone to stone and preserving them his way. Right? Yeah. And you flip this on the head where this guy is, and I feel you have to do this with a lot of the metallic dragons where if you want to use them as a bad guy, you've got to ask yourself, what is their definition of good? Right? He is preserving. He sees himself as a conservationist.
Yeah, he's a hero in his own eyes.
Right? And he's the kind of guy who wakes up every morning and weeps that the Library of Alexandria got burned down. That's the type of guy he is. And he's going to do everything.
Every once in a while you just see a small tear roll down his face.
It's like, what do you think about, the Library of Alexandria? That burned down 1,600 years ago. What the hell is your problem?
Feels like yesterday.
Right? Right?
Too soon.
But that's what this guy is. So you have to play a little bit of otherworldly psychosis on these guys, right? Like, because they're eternal, because they're so imposing and powerful, they have a different perspective than your average, live 60 years human.
Yeah.
Right? So I would definitely be using that. I might even have them have a bit of their own cults themselves, but it's a bunch of yuppies. Like everyone's either a foodie or something. Yeah. Right? Like
independent filmmaker.
Yeah. Everyone's wearing scarves.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and you're like, you're in the middle of fucking desert. What are you doing? Oh, this is this year's fashion.
Yeah.
Right.
It's this year's color.
Right?
Yeah.
And of course it's brass. Every year it's brass.
I feel like
this year's color is brass.
Yeah. This dragon would probably also be one that would try and paint its scales to be like in style.
Yeah.
Like I'm imagining that. Yeah.
It sends the party out to go get some pearlescent, like, I want some ivory paint that's pearlescent, so go and get that for me. And like, you go through hell to, get the ivory to make the paint, and you come in and he goes, oh, wonderful, thank you so much, picks it out and just starts painting his nails with it.
This dragon...
Oh, that is so much better.
Yeah. This dragon wears the glasses, but it doesn't need the glasses.
Yeah. There's no lens. Yeah. There's no lens. Yeah.
It's like one monocle, though, because you can't really have glasses on. They're just on the tip of the nose.
No, I meant when he was shape changed, Megan. Okay. No, he's a freaking dragon.
This is the dragon that smokes a pipe.
Oh yeah, the longest 100%. Of pipes.
Right? Yeah. And like in draconic form has a draconic pipe that's like 10 feet long that he just smokes.
And he has a collection of and he uses a different one every day. I love that.
And you just expect it to keep talking. If you don't, he's just like, go on.
Yeah.
And it just keeps going.
Keep talking.
The worry is that you're going to run out of things to say, and then you have to deal with the dragon. No.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Each of us, why don't we just talk about like a new creative idea for a dragon? Let's roll.
Sure, I feel like I've rolled out all my creative ideas over the course.
I have like one more.
Natural 20.
All right, you can go first, Brendo.
My one creative idea for this guy, I've said a bunch of them, But
We've gone off on a lot of tangents.
Yeah.
we've gone off on a lot of tangents today. I really love the shape change ability. I think it adds so much weight to them. But I would have this guy, because he is so... he wants to experience everything about life. He wants to have all of these stories. He's going to do everything in his power to become or to place himself in the situation where he can learn this information. So this is your brass dragon that isn't changing himself into a human or a humanoid figure. He's a horse at the stall next to the tavern.
Listening in.
Right?
Having a
And
good
like
time.
that oddly intelligent, slightly shimmering in the sunlight horse. Or he's that camel you pass by on your journey who's just like...
That's now in town. It's now in
and
town.
like now in town again. And it's just like keeps on... Or that hawk that follows you and just keeps on. You see him on every roof as you go. And it seems like he's following you. It might not be the same hawk, but you're not sure because, of course, the ranger's gone missing somehow.
Yeah.
Right? And like, he is using his shape change just to garner information. And when you finally figure out that it's a brass dragon, he changes into something else, goes, oh, my bad. Sorry, I'll leave you guys alone now. Runs away until he knows he's out of sight, changes into something else and keeps following your party.
Adorable.
Right? He's just obsessed with your party's story.
But appears in different forms every time. I
Right.
enjoy that a lot. Yeah. And eventually, like, at one point, someone has, like, a perception check of, like, there's this weird animal in the corner. You'd be like, that dragon is back!
And for
Just like,
the longest time, like, if he appears in his humanoid form, he comes in as, like, a halfling druid.
Yeah.
So it takes your party so long to figure out that he is actually incredibly powerful because only ancient dragons get the ability to shape change.
Yeah.
He's an incredibly powerful ancient dragon who just found you guys fascinating.
Yeah.
Right?
He's going to learn a lot from you.
Yeah.
I like it.
Megan, what you got?
I want to lean into the fact that they do mate for life and they do find partners.
Yeah, you're probably not going to find one alone, right?
Right? So this is what I'm thinking is that this is a dragon that is trying to find its mate, but it's really, really bad at the dating game scene.
This dragon hates being the only gay dragon in the kingdom.
Right? It's just like, so this dragon, like, in an ancient form would be able to, like, shape change into a human, but it spends its life traveling looking for another brass dragon. So it runs into your family and you just have this awkward guy who's practicing hitting on your female characters or even hitting on your male characters just to get practice in.
So I came up with this line. Let me know if this lands.
Would this work for you?
Would this work for, like, not
you.
for you, but for, like,
Just let
someone
me
like you?
practice. Yeah, just let me do it, and then just tell me how it goes.
I took this webinar once, and it told me to... No.
Yeah, and then it just ends up traveling with you because it's like, well, you guys might actually just come in like contact with this more than I would, so I'm going to come traveling with you. So it would be like a brass dragon just following you around because it thinks that it's going to meet its mate by following you around, but it's just constantly talking about its dating game that it doesn't have.
Just ruins every pinnacle moment because it points out obvious things. Like if an NPC and a PC are attracted to each other. No.
There's something here.
Yeah, there's something here. I hear wedding bells.
You're talking to a nobleman. He's like, sorry to interrupt, but you got a little thing
It's just
here. Yeah, like licks his thumb. Yeah.
Leaning into the mating, because does that get mentioned in any other dragon? They definitely not the chromatic ones.
A lot of them say
a
lot of them say that they will mate for the purpose of mating and procreation, and then go their separate ways. Otherwise, they will kill each other.
Yes,
Yeah.
they usually don't like to stay in the same nest.
I like the idea of two adult brass dragons that don't understand like PDA. There's just like too much like stroking and stuff and like necks going around each other.
You walk into the lair and their necks are just intertwined with each other. So you're just like,
Exactly.
interesting.
Walking in on two
They
dragons.
share like a glass of wine, like with the arms linked.
Like with every drink, though, like every sip, they do that.
flying
Yeah.
with their hands holding.
One of the dragons is like, "Oh, fetch me that book," and it like holds it out for the other one to read it. Like,
Yeah. Next page, yes, dear.
Yeah. Like one's doing like a nude painting of the other one.
Yes.
If you come in.
paint me like
Don't
one of your
move.
French girls.
Yeah, wearing just this sentient ruby or something. Love it. I love it. Who's that? Me?
I love the idea. You mentioned this earlier, like two gay brass dragons that are just like the talk of the town.
Yeah.
Like they are...
All tea, no shade. Just
Yeah, right?
So, you know, shit. But that's none of my business.
They're the ones starting the fantasy drag competition, right?
Oh my goodness.
I love the idea of these two.
Yeah. I would
great.
love that.
Okay, I like the idea, and I think I like your idea best, Megan, with the mating there. But I like the idea of because I don't think these dragons are ambitious in that they want to be the king. I can imagine them working for a king or a queen and being like the military advisor or something because they have all of the intel and the information. But they're just so annoying and difficult to deal with. Like they'd come and give their report and they'd be like, "Your Majesty, King Bruno is on the horizon. You remember King Bruno? His daughter's now a lesbian. You remember?" And it's like, get to the point. What has happened? Anyway, there's 6,000 archers, and they're on their way right now. And it's just exhausting to deal with, but he is essential so that you can have constant social encounters with this person, with this dragon that has no real ambitions other than just to talk, but in a more interesting way than just being in their cave and talking.
It's true.
If you were to have a overweight, gluttonous, slothful dragon, would it be a brass dragon?
No, these guys take care of themselves.
This is the dragon that
so.
you walk in and it's looking at its profile in the mirror.
And it's like, well, I'm not wearing
what
that.
Happened? What happened?
Well,
I'm not wearing that. I look like a snowman.
I'm not.
Thank you, Renee. I look like a snowman. You can leave.
Yeah.
Find another cave tonight.
Well, I am not going out in this. I'm not going.
Just like Elton John.
Yeah.
Just like throwing absolute hissy fits. I love it.
What was your point, though, Dan?
Well, no, I just like if their main goal in life is to just sit and converse with friends. Like if they get around them, they like this is the dragon that runs a game of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Maybe, or is it the dragon that loves being the life of the party?
I think it's either or. Like I could see this guy being an introvert.
Yeah.
Who loves to talk with his group of friends, but
This
is
dragon's on Reddit.
terrified of everyone else. So he's bringing like servants and worshippers around him just to bring him more information of the outside world because he doesn't want to go out there because they kill dragons out there, guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
it's true.
Right? And I could just see him being terrified of going out, but he so wants the information and the conversation.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. If I was to be a DM and built that idea of the fact that this dragon is a gluttonous, I never leave my cave, I would like obliterate its speed capabilities.
Oh yeah.
So imagine this dragon with these tiny legs and giant belly just trying to run away. Like,
Its burrow speed is just like
it's true.
has to stop to breathe for a minute.
Yeah.
Keeps going.
I'm sorry. I'm not as fast as I used to be.
Get stuck in the tunnel and you have to like can someone give me a push?
That's because
please.
you're quite. I'm quite what? What am I quite?
Yeah.
No, tell me.
Did you just use the F word with me? 'Cause
What am I like?
that will end you.
And then they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god. All right. Any final thoughts on brass dragons before we close it out?
I'm really happy we're finally on to metallic dragons. I love pretty much all of the metallic dragons except for gold. Funny enough, I'm not a huge fan of gold dragons.
Really?
But
We'll get into that on a later episode.
we'll get into that in a later episode. But I love the fact that we're on to the metallics, and I love the fact that we started with the brass dragon, who is just ultimately
Very refreshing.
very
Brass
refreshing, right? Like this guy's not going to try to skin you alive like a black dragon. He's not going to try to manipulate you and put you in a little cage like the blue. He's not going to, straight up eat you and destroy you in an instant like the white dragon.
I like the idea of actually having a cowardly ally as well. Like, you think like teaming up with a dragon would help you when it's going to time to face the green dragon or something. They're the first ones to peace out.
Yeah.
They're like, fuck that, I'm not going in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the fact that they are so powerful, but they're the one that you can expect to run away. Even though they're a CR20 as an ancient.
Yeah.
Right?
Feel you, champ. Closing my monster manual. Well, this is a fancy one.
Yeah, it's got a foil cover.
Oh. Very
Yeah.
fancy.
I got the full foil set over there.
Well,
Look at that.
I always knew there was money this not far north of the city.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for this week's episode on Brass Dragons. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, as well as dozens of other podcast apps. You can also find us at www.itsamimic.com or email us at info@itsamimic.com. Thanks for listening to the It's a Mimic podcast, and make sure to check us out next week when we're talking about covering Avernus.
Yeah, I got to get to reading.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, we're doing a deep dive into Avernus.
Well,
Not
good
me.
luck. Not
I'm
me.
in England.
What?
I'll be in England.
Who's your stand-in?
So...
Oh, God.
You've reached the end of another episode of the It's a Mimic podcast. Connect with us at itsamimic.com. Don't forget to subscribe and hit those share buttons. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.
What we're starting to talk about is how would you make the sleep spell more effective in real combat?
Okay.
Do you guys understand how the sleep spell works already?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well, you add a certain amount of hit
No, I
points.
immediately regretted not bringing my notes. That's what
That was how that face was.
I was so confident. I came in, I was like, I don't need any fucking notes. Okay, then you asked the first question, I was like, I have no
And
idea
I am not ready for
what
today.
my answer was.
So
I know what my answer was.
in recap, you spend a certain amount of, what is it, D10s?
5 D8s.
It's D8s.
It reflects hit points, right?
Yeah.
people
But for every spell level above
You get an
first,
extra 2.
you get 2 more.
Yeah.
So as a 9th level spell, you're picking up a fuck ton.
Oh, yes.
Like 24? Is 24 D8?
Who knows, man? I can't do math.
What's 9 times... Well, 9 times 2 is 18. So you get 18 plus 4. So you get 22 D8.
At level 9.
At level, as a 9th level spell slot. Which, I mean, if
How
you're
often
spending
do you get that high, though?
if you're spending your 9th level spell slot on sleep, there's...
when you could just wish the dragon away?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Or stop time and leave?
So, I don't find this spell very useful in higher level combat.
I do, and I'll tell you why.
Go for it.
It's called the action economy, Megan.
All right?
You two sit down, take notes, okay? Everybody starts using sleep as a lower level spell, as in like lower tiers, thinking, oh, but maybe I didn't get enough hit points and now it didn't work and blah, blah, blah. The sleep spell should be used against minions. When you get to those higher levels and everything's just 1 hit point, it's just that people using the action economy against you, all of those kobolds or the goblins or whatever that are just surrounding you, that's when you use the sleep spell. Because everything's 1 hit point at that point, and then all that action economy that the enemy's using against you is removed, because everything's asleep, and then you go for the big bad. That's how you use the mother flipping sleep spell properly.
What I like to use the sleep spell for is if your party's been ambushed, even if it's by one big thing. You drop that sleep spell, you now have some time to get set up while that thing's magically sleeping. And I would like to point out, only elves and like a handful of monstrosities are immune to the sleep
Are
condition.
gnomes?
Gnomes are not. Gnomes get advantage on any int, wisdom, and charisma save against spells. And I believe sleep is constitution. We should really look up
But
this
do
spell.
gnomes have Fey
Let me have a
ancestry? Because this
look-see.
comes from their Fey ancestry.
No, gnomes don't have Fey ancestry anymore.
Can legendary action brush off a sleep spell?
Yes. Yes, it most certainly can.
So you could utilize it to actually burn legendary slot.
Exactly.
Legendary save.
So the other thing that is kind of fun to do, and I've done at our table, Megan, way back in the day, was
You make us sound so old, like we've been friends forever.
Yeah.
It's been 2 years since we've been part of this.
No, we haven't. Oh,
Yes.
I guess that's true.
It has been 2 years. But yeah, it's been a while, eh?
Yeah.
But you use it and you don't tell the DM, who in this case was Adam, so fuck you, Adam, what level of spell slot you're using, and then he uses the legendary resistance to get rid of it, and you're like, all right, well, you just blew one of those 3 things you have for a first level spell. And that's kind of what you have to do, is you kind of got to play mind games with your DM to make them blow those legendary resistances, and then you're making their copper dragon fall asleep.
Is the DM allowed to ask you what level you're using it before they decide whether or not they're gonna...
100%
Yeah.
they really should.
Yeah.
And I mean, you gotta answer honestly,
Yeah.
but if you're casting sleep, the DM's gonna be like, well, no, I'll just let that go through because you're not going to roll enough.
Is it
D.
assumed that it's at the base level unless you say I'm casting sleep at 7th level or something?
Yes, I would say so. Like if you're grabbing 68, your DM will know you're casting it at first level. But if you're grabbing handfuls of D8s and you say, I need about 10 more.
Who's
then
got
your DM
D8s? Yeah.
Right? Then
Not
your,
D8s.
the paladin goes,
That's
but
what
they're
I'll throw you
mine.
out.
But they're all of
D10s.
my D8s.
Yeah, they're my D8s. I don't know, man. Like, I love the sleep spell. I think it's horribly, criminally underused.
I just don't think it's used correctly. I don't think it's used tactically.
Yeah, because a lot of people will use it as an attempt to take down a big bad, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't really work.
No. Use it to get the action economy on your side.
Especially when you have DMs who, like, if you're running a high power campaign, like we've all been a part of, and I know Adam does this when he runs, he runs max hit points. So if you're looking at your monster stat blocks and It says like hit points gives you a number and then gives you what the math for that number is. And you notice how it's usually an average of that number. Adam will just do the math for max hit points for whatever their monsters are. And he'll do that every single time, right? The reason is we are a freaking powerhouse of a party at this point, being level 19 and just stomping face.
Man, level 19.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're good folks.
But I would not change the sleep spell in the slightest. I might make it D10s instead of D8s just to give it more hit points.
But is that side with the player, or are you siding that with... That would be more of a side for the player than it would be the DM.
I would side for the player. Just to make it used more, because it, like I said, it is criminally underused.
Yeah.
It's up there with like Grease as the most underused.
Is this book brand new?
I'm sorry, did you just smell that book?
It smells like it's brand new.
There is no sleep condition.
Be like being asleep?
Yeah.
Is there really not?
No. That's what I was just looking up. There is no asleep condition.
Are you not just counted as unconscious?
I think that's what it says.
I would just count it as unconscious, yeah.
Hold on here.
If you're asleep,
it
you're
says they
unconscious.
fall unconscious.
They fall unconscious,
Each
okay.
creature affected by the spell falls unconscious until spell ends.
So, an unconscious creature is incapacitated, as per the condition, can't move or speak, and is unaware of its surroundings, drops whatever it's holding, and falls prone, which I think is hilarious. You drop a bunch of, say, fighter minions or weapon-wielding militiamen. Then you go around and you just collect their weapons, and then you wait for them all to wake up. Now you're fighting a bunch of guys who are doing, what, a D4 damage instead of a D10?
Yeah.
Right?
I love that. Or the wizard's staff.
Or wizard staff, or whatever it is. The creature automatically fails strength and dexterity saving throws.
Yeah.
Put them to sleep, and then drop a fireball on them. Right?
Well, I was trying to think about why is it not just a save? Like, why does it have to be on hit points? Why do we think they chose that direction?
Why don't you drop what you're carrying if you're, like, knocked unconscious? Like, 0 hit points knocked unconscious.
You're supposed to. You're supposed to. It just gets hand waved at every table because no one really ever pays attention. When you have feats like Warcaster out there, where it doesn't matter if you're wielding a hammer and a shield and casting spells, people just stop paying attention to it. It's like carrying capacity. But I think they use hit points, 1, because it's a holdover from previous system. It's always been hit points.
Yeah.
But 2, hit points represent your hardiness, and you are literally sapping the wakefulness, the hardiness out of somebody to put them to sleep for a minute.
I guess so.
Right?
Because if you think about the when you're dealing with a mob, because it does say that if you're trying to put a mob to sleep or like a swarm, basically you subtract each one's HP from the dice roll that you did, so you might not get the whole swarm. You'd only get maybe 2 or 3 out of like 4 or 5 of the swarm that you're after.
But that's fine, especially when you consider that the unconscious condition. I'm reading a little bit more into it right now. Is bonkers. Any attack that hits the creature is a critical hit if the attacker is within 5 feet.
Yeah, well, it should be.
Right?
Dead.
You could aim, you could aim for their eyeball or their heart.
Right? Like it.
You should be able to lob off a limb if you felt like it.
Yeah.
So blowing a 9th level spell slot to make, I don't know, 3 of the 10 things around the table unconscious, fucking worth it in my mind.
Yeah. And then just pounding them when they're asleep until they're dead.
Is that the name of your sex tape?
Phrasing?
While they're asleep. While they're asleep. Yes.
Yeah.
That is the unofficial sequel to the epileptic sewing machine. Megan, I think we're moving on.
Lord.
Thank you for listening to an It's a Mimic production.
Okay, you're done. Get it.
Bye.